What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto took Nagato Rinnegan? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Naruto stood before Nagato, the real Lord Pain, watching as he used the last of his chakra to restore the lives he took during his siege on Konoha. Finishing his jutsu, Pain slumped over exhausted and waited to die. He realized the only thing keeping him alive was his life chakra as he thought to himself, this boy is powerful but he doesn't stand a chance against Madara. Making one more final decision he called out to Naruto, "Naruto, come here." Naruto could tell by his exhaustion that he was out of chakra, but he still used caution. Warily he made his way towards Pain and stopped just before him. Pain then looked deeply into Naruto's eyes and saw hope for the future. He knew then he made a good decision. "Naruto, I don't have time to explain, and I only have one chance to try this, so listen carefully. You are a powerful ninja, but your most powerful enemy is still ahead of you. As of now you cannot defeat him, but I can give you what you need to defeat the true leader of the Akatsuki, Madara Uchiha." Nagato explained. "I don't understand, Madara is supposed to..." Naruto started but was cut off by Nagato. "Just listen, I'm almost out of time. Now, look into my eyes and do not turn away," Pain said to Naruto as he started to perform a series of hand signs followed by him saying, "Rinnegan transfer jutsu." Konan watched in awe as Nagato reached out and grabbed Naruto around the head with both his hands. She could see Nagato's life chakra flowing through his arms and into Naruto. Just then she noticed Naruto's normally blue eyes dull, then flare red with the pupil constricting into a vertical slash almost as if the demon fox itself was angered at the intrusion. Then finally after a long moment they dulled again, then resolved into the unmistakable Rinnegan. Glancing back to Nagato she saw him smile just before his body relaxed into death's embrace. Naruto was shocked by the sudden intensity of the jutsu just as Pain finished and instinctively turned away, shutting his eyes in the process. When Naruto felt Nagato's body slump against him he could only guess the truth, he finally died. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and gasped as he saw the world around him more vividly than he ever had before. His eyes became sore as they struggled to adjust. After a few long moments they adjusted and he turned towards Konan. "What happened?" he asked. "Pain gave his life, giving you a great gift. Something more precious than life itself, and something he never gave to anyone except to the other Pains. He gave you his Rinnegan," Konan explained as she used her jutsu to float a paper as reflective as a mirror to Naruto's face. Naruto stared at the paper in disbelief. In it he saw a reflection of his face, but now a perfect resemblance of the Rinnegan sat where his normally blue eyes sat just moments ago. After some time he turned to Nagato's slumping body and said, "Thank you, friend." Naruto turned back to Konan afterwards and asked, "What will you do now?" "I followed Nagato, he was the only reason I stayed with the Akatsuki. I am going to take him and all the other Pains back to the Rain Country to bury them where they belong. Then I will continue his quest to bring peace to the Hidden Rain. Before I go Naruto, I have something to give you. Nagato would have wanted you to have it," she said as she stooped down to the sixth Pain's body and took something from it. Turning back to Naruto she said, "This won't hurt much, but trust me. Now close your eyes." Naruto did as he was told, and as soon as his eyes were shut he felt something stab into the lobe of his left ear that was quickly followed by the right. It didn't really hurt, but to Naruto it wasn't the most pleasant experience. When he opened his eyes he looked back at the floating reflective paper. In his ears now hung two very small earrings similar to the symbol for Konoha but with slight differences. Both were made of the same metal that Nagato used to transfer his chakra to each of the other Pains. Naruto turned back to Konan and said, "I shall wear them as a tribute to his sacrifice." With that said Konan used her paper jutsu to lift all the Pains up then disappeared. Naruto was walking back to the village replaying what had just happened in his mind while he still adjusted to his new eyes. Remembering that one of the abilities of the Rinnegan is to see through 6 sets of eyes he decided to test his abilities by doing a shadow clone jutsu. Just then 5 clones appeared and when nothing happened he became confused. Frustrated he dispelled his clones then decided to send one ahead to let the village know Pain was dead and that he was heading back. This time Naruto did his clone jutsu, only one appeared. He was about to send it ahead when he noticed his vision splitting. "Whoa, this is so cool," Naruto said to himself. It felt odd seeing himself without the use of a mirror, but in fact was staring at himself through his clone but also at his clone. Naruto was finding it difficult following his surroundings through two sets of eyes. He realized he was going to need training to get used to it. Since training his new eyes wasn't using chakra, he told his clone to walk around aimlessly. As the real Naruto neared the village, his clone circled back to where he was but obviously had an idea. The real Naruto, forgetting about his clone, walked into the village. As soon as he was in sight, Hinata quickly ran and threw her arms around him and laid her head on his chest as she said, "I'm so glad you're okay, Naruto-kun." "I'm glad you're okay to Hinata-chan," he said as he wrapped his arms around her. Sakura, seeing their embrace, walked up to him with the intentions of hitting him on the head for being stubborn and facing pain alone. As soon as she reached him, she hauled back and swung. Naruto finally realized he never dispelled his clone as he saw Sakura's punch through its eyes. With Hinata still in his arms, he quickly dodged out the way. "What the hell? How did you see me? You were turned the other way," Sakura asked, perplexed. Just then Naruto turned to Hinata and Sakura, who were now beside each other. They both just stared in disbelief, then said, "Naruto?" As Naruto snickered at Sakura's reaction, he dispelled his clone. Just then Kakashi, feeling almost new after Nagato restored his life, walked over to congratulate Naruto on his victory when he noticed Naruto's eyes as well. "Naruto, mind if we have a word together?" he asked him. "Sure, Kakashi-sensei," he said as he followed Kakashi away. When they were far out of earshot of anyone, Kakashi asked him, "Naruto, how did you get the Rinnegan?" "Pain gave it to me after he said he believed I could change the world of the ninja and told me about the true leader of the Akatsuki," Naruto said before he went on to explain what happened when he talked with Pain, how Madara Uchiha was alive and the leader of the Akatsuki, how Pain gave him the Rinnegan to beat him, what happened with Konan, and finally what he found he could do so far. Kakashi just stood and listened calmly. Nothing surprised him anymore with Naruto. Naruto then looked at Kakashi and said, "I don't understand why I can only use it with one clone. You weren't born with those eyes as I haven't. You may need to train more in its mastery to use it to its full potential," he stated as Naruto slumped over wishing he knew how to master it. So Kakashi continued, "But this means you will now be able to use genjutsu easier than a normal ninja. Therefore I will help to teach you how to do genjutsu, and I will have Neji and Hinata help to train you in the other uses of the Rinnegan." "Really, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked with an air of excitement. "Yes, now let's head back to the village. Oh, and until the village is comfortable with you having the Rinnegan, we will limit your time to most the villagers, and for those who ask, you stole them once you defeated Pain," he said, walking towards everyone. After a short celebration from the village calling Naruto their savior, the villagers quickly started rebuilding. With everyone hard at work rebuilding, Kakashi walked back over to Naruto with Neji and Hinata in tow and said, "Well, since I'm no builder, are you ready to start training Naruto?" Naruto had been training with Neji, Kakashi, and Hinata for about a week now. Earlier in the week, Neji had come to the realization that Naruto's clones were taking more damage before they would disappear. It wasn't much damage, but Neji had been known for his attention to small details as well as the big details. It also had made him curious of the change. After activating his Byakugan, he noticed Naruto's clones were increasing in chakra while the real Naruto's was dissipating. Flashback start. "I think Naruto is somehow transferring his chakra to his clones," Neji stated as he approached Kakashi and Naruto. Oh, what made you come to that conclusion?" Kakashi asked, turning towards him. "At first I noticed it was taking more to kill Naruto's clones, so I decided to measure my attacks against each until they disappeared. At first they were all disappearing with the same amount of attacks, but slowly started taking more. Then I activated my Byakugan and I didn't see any chakra flowing through the air except around Naruto when he was actively using a jutsu. However, I noticed Naruto's internal chakra kept diminishing even without the use of any jutsu, while his clones' chakra steadily increased, even as they used it." "I see. That was an incredibly intelligent assessment, Neji. The village was wise to make you a Junin," Kakashi stated as he looked lost in thought. "What does all this mean, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked, breaking Kakashi out of his trance-like state. "Well, I can't be certain because when the shadow clone technique was created it had been for recon missions. However, the user of the technique usually split his chakra in half with his clone, or in thirds, or fourths depending on the number of clones made. That is why it was no longer taught to new ninja. The splitting of the chakra was deemed dangerous in battle circumstances. Until now there hasn't been a way to transfer chakra from one person to another except through touch. How you're doing it is a mystery to me. Naruto thought for a second as he unconsciously rubbed one of his ears that itched where they had recently been pierced. That was when it hit him. I think I know how. Naruto exclaimed, causing both ninja before him to focus on him. Oh, care to enlighten us then? Kakashi stated as he stared at him. After Pain died, the girl that was with him, Konan, she took these from one of the corpses of one of the other Pains. She told me Pain would have wanted me to have them, then pierced my ears with them. I told her that since he sacrificed the last of his life to save the villagers and give me the Rinnegan, that I would wear them in his honor. He explained. What does that have anything to do with it, Naruto? Neji asked. You weren't here during the attack until I was fighting Pain, so you didn't know. These are made of the same metal that Pain used to transfer his chakra to his other 6 bodies. I see, so now with you fighting Neji and your clones having the same earrings, you're unconsciously transferring your chakra to them. Kakashi said, which is in turn making them able to withstand more attacks before the jutsu is cancelled. Neji added. Kakashi thought for a minute before he finally said, Naruto, this may be new to you and seem cool, but I can't allow you to use this ability. The fact is, it may make your clones stronger, but not even you have enough chakra to sustain 5 clones in a prolonged battle. You have to remove those earrings before you get yourself killed. Kakashi said sternly. Not necessarily Kakashi's sensei. Hinata stuttered like she always does when she was around Naruto. She was just grateful she hadn't fainted since she started helping Naruto's training. Hinata walked up to Kakashi and explained her plan. Kakashi simply nodded in agreement. Kakashi then turned to Naruto saying, very well, Hinata will be teaching you how to transfer your chakra once your daily training with Neji is over. She has better control over focusing her chakra than almost all ninja, even better than Neji. Once you have mastered this, you will begin the next phase of your training with me. What's the next phase, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked. You'll find out soon enough, Naruto. Kakashi said vaguely. End flashback. It had been a couple of days since he and Hinata had started his new training. Hinata wasn't sure how to teach Naruto a technique she herself didn't understand, but they both quickly figured it out. It was pretty simple to Naruto. To him it was just a revised version of his Sage Jutsu training. Since the principle of it was to stay still, he started out with him and his clones meditating. Finally Hinata felt confident that Naruto had mastered it. Unfortunately, Kakashi was always very thorough in his training and insisted he needed to do it in battle. That was what they were doing today. Seeing Naruto wasn't making very much progress, he shouted, Naruto, you're getting nowhere like this. Let's take it down a notch and focus on 1 clone instead of 5. Right, Naruto said just before he stopped and dispelled 4 of his clones, then gasped as his vision split again. Something wrong, Naruto? Kakashi asked. No, it's nothing, I'm still just getting used to seeing with more than 1 pair of eyes. He explained. Oh, Naruto. He said, causing Naruto to turn around before he continued. Just focus on fighting Neji while using both eyes. We'll go back to transferring your chakra later. Got it, he said as he turned back towards Neji. Hinata? Kakashi said, turning to the girl who always seemed to be blushing lately. Oi, I wish she'd just tell Naruto and get it over with, everyone else sees it but him. He thought, not knowing she had told Naruto she loved him during the battle against Pain. Yes, Kakashi-sensei? She asked, turning to him. Watch Naruto with your Byakugan and tell me if you see him transfer his chakra. Okay, she said as she activating her Byakugan and turned to watch them fight. Suddenly Naruto lunged at Neji as his clone tried a kick from behind him. Neji easily dodged Naruto, throwing a counter-attack as he dodged his clone. Naruto's clone missed his attack but allowed the real Naruto to dodge Neji's counter with room to spare. Naruto's clone went on the offensive again, this time creating another clone to help create a Rasengan. The clone instantly vanished as his other clone lunged at Neji, pushing the Rasengan towards his chest. What's happening? Kakashi asked Hinata. Naruto is transferring his chakra to his clone successfully. He keeps transferring more as the fight progresses. She explained. So it's working. Working? Hinata said with a curious look on his face. Naruto was focusing more on his chakra than the fight. By doing so he was crowding his mind. By telling him to focus on the fight is allowing him to clear his mind, which in turn is allowing him to transfer his chakra. Naruto needs to learn to do this without thought. I figured this would work, but it was only a theory. Kakashi explained to her. Wow, Kakashi-sensei. No wonder Naruto-kun thinks so highly of you, she said as she turned back to the fight. Her comment made Kakashi smile, knowing Naruto was bragging about him, but no one could see it because of his covered face. They both watched as Naruto attacked Neji and Neji quickly ducked out of it. Catching Naruto off guard, Neji quickly took advantage of the situation as he launched himself upwards, uppercutting Naruto in the jaw and sending him flying. Naruto's clone, wanting to try and catch Neji off guard from his attack, created another clone to help make another Rasengan. Not wanting to lose the advantage, the clone darted towards Neji as it forgot to dispel the other clone. Neji ignored the clone, and with the real Naruto on the ground, went in for the kill. Just then Hinata started screaming, "No! He's out of chakra, if you attack his chakra core now it'll kill him." Kakashi quickly figured out what had happened. In the heat of battle Naruto had transferred all his chakra to his clone, that was why he was acting much more independent of the real Naruto, but also left him vulnerable. "Neji, stop!" Kakashi screamed, but Neji never heard them. He was just about on top of Naruto, aiming for his chakra center in hopes to stop Naruto from using jutsu. That was when Hinata appeared in front of his path. He tried to stop his path, but he had jumped and was now set on a determined trajectory he couldn't stop or change. Naruto's clone saw everything as a charge. The real Naruto, still on the ground, reacted instantly and used his right arm to pull Hinata down into his arms as his left shot forward. Push! Naruto screamed as Neji was sent flying on a totally different path. Naruto looked into Hinata's eyes as he asked, "Are you okay?" Was all she was able to get out. Realizing her proximity to Naruto, she jumped up and started brushing the dust off her clothes while blushing madly. "Naruto just saved me and held me in his arms, and I didn't faint," she thought to herself as she hid her blush from Naruto. Sorry Naruto-kun," she managed to stutter out. Naruto stood and laughed as he said, "Ah, you're so funny, Hinata-chan. You apologize for trying to save me." Naruto started to grin when his vision split a third way. "Kakashi-sensei, I can use another clone." What are you on about, Naruto?" he asked as he walked up to Naruto and Hinata. "I mean my clones, I have two, but now I can see with my eyes and both of theirs," he explained, excited. Well, when I first talked to you about your eyes you said you could see through yours and one of your clones. I thought it was just coincidence until now. You already know the summoning jutsu, so I think maybe you already had unlocked those eyes because of that. Just now I saw you use the same technique Pain used against me when I fought him. I believe you have to unlock each path to be able to use the different sets of eyes until you reach all 6. Kakashi said. "That's great, so how do we unlock his other paths?" Neji asked as he walked up. "First off, that's just a theory, and the only way to test it is to figure out how to unlock a path and see if it works. Secondly, I have no idea how to do that," Kakashi said, causing Naruto to fall over. "Naruto, your training is becoming more complex as you get better with your Rinnegan," Kakashi said as he sighed. "Well, I believe it's safe to say he has transferring his chakra down, he just needs to perfect it," Neji added, "although you still need to work on drawing it back in so you're not helpless if something goes wrong." "Yes, well, the only other problem is figuring out how to unlock, that's it. Naruto, I figured out how to test my theory and open up another one of your paths," Kakashi said to him. "Really? How?" "I'll explain later, for now take the rest of the day off to get used to using 3 pairs of eyes. Every time you unlock another pair you have to start all over again from the sensory overload of another set of eyes. We'll pick up your training tomorrow. We'll be going on to phase 3 once you perfect transferring your chakra and, if I'm right, unlock your next path," Kakashi said to him just before he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. "Okay, well, see you tomorrow, Naruto," Neji said as he turned to leave. Hinata moved to follow him when Naruto said, "Hinata, would you like to join me for some ramen?" "Our ramen?" she asked as she tried to hide a blush. "Yeah, you know, from Ichiraku's?" he asked expectantly. Sure." She moved to follow Naruto when they both watched one of his clones walk to Neji. "Hey Neji. Mind if I hang with you? His clone asked. Well, since the village is mostly destroyed at the moment I have to real duties so I guess. Why? He asked. I want to keep working on transferring my chakra. His clone said simply. Kakashi told you to get used to your eyes. Neji responded quickly. I am, and what better way to do that than by sparring? Naruto's clone said grinning cheekily. In that case I guess it's okay. Neji said as they finally left. Naruto's last clone just looked at the real Naruto and Hinata before saying, I guess I'll go help rebuild the village since they need extra help. With both his clones gone but still seeing things through their eyes he turned to Hinata saying, ready? Naruto was slurping down the remains of his second bowl of ramen as Hinata sat watching him. She had a faint blush on her cheeks Naruto seemed oblivious to. Finally, as Naruto put down his bowl with a sigh, she turned to face him. One thing she was glad for was that the past week of training made it easier for her to be around Naruto. Naruto-kun, why did you invite me for ramen? She asked him. She was glad she didn't stutter for once. Huh? Oh, well I wanted to thank you for helping me with my training and you're my friend. Oh, and since I don't like eating alone I thought I'd invite you. Oh, friends. Right, Hinata said disappointed as she turned back to her bowl of half-eaten ramen. Did you mean it? Naruto just said. Huh? Was all she said in return. When I was fighting pain you said you loved me. Did you mean it? Naruto reiterated. Hinata leaned forward causing Naruto to swallow a lump in his throat. She made her move before Naruto could move and before even she could realize it they were kissing. It started out as a soft kiss due to Hinata's shyness and Naruto being too dumbfounded to do anything. Naruto wasn't used to this kind of affection and Hinata was practically throwing herself at him. Eventually though Naruto started to return the kiss. At first Hinata felt like an idiot when Naruto didn't move. She felt stupid for being so bold when she had no knowledge of if Naruto even reciprocated her feelings. He doesn't like me, she thought as she blushed but continued to kiss Naruto. After what felt like an eternity to Hinata, Naruto started to return the kiss. This made Hinata feel like her heart did a flip inside her chest and her head feel light. Hinata fought off her oncoming faint and tried to intensify the kiss by licking at Naruto's lips. After 3 years of traveling with Jiraiya, who had kept asking Naruto to review his books, recognized this sign and parted his lips and allowing her to deepen the kiss. Hinata slowly slid her tongue into his mouth causing Naruto to marvel at how a girl as shy as Hinata was exploring his mouth, which he only assumed, expertly. Naruto's hands naturally went to her waist as Hinata intertwined her fingers in Naruto's hair. He let out a soft groan from the feeling of her gentle fingers playing with his hair, then he continued to kiss her. Atta, boy Naruto, 'bout time you made a move. The old man from the ramen shop said as he walked to the counter and grinned. I can't seem to remember the name of the owner because it's late so I'm just calling him by Naruto's nickname for him. This caused the two ninja to cease kissing. They both pulled back blushing and trying to catch their breath. Hinata stood up looking at Naruto, then said, I had to go. Hinata wait, Naruto called out as she kept running. Naruto just sighed and watched her go once he realized it was no use. Just as she was out of sight Naruto was knocked off his stool by Sakura. You idiot, no wonder she ran away when you practically threw yourself all over her. She said. Naruto got up rubbing his head where Sakura had hit him and said, it wasn't like that Sakura. Really Naruto, then how did it happen? She said as she noted that he left off the chan he usually added with her name. We were talking and she just kissed me. Naruto explained. Right, I'm supposed to believe someone as shy as Hinata was the one who made the move. She chided, oddly feeling jealous of Naruto's turn of attention. He's telling the truth, the old mad interjected. Sakura turned to the store owner and asked, really? Yay, I saw the whole thing. I think I broke them up though because I made a comment about Naruto finally making a move but really I was joking because it was Hinata who made the first move. The old man explained. Sakura sighed to herself then said, well I didn't expect that. Naruto for her sake take it slowly and don't hurt her, she's loved you for a long time. Really? You didn't know? Naruto you must be dumb as a brick, how did you miss it? She asked completely unfazed by Naruto's lack of noticing. How was I supposed to know? She always fainted whenever I got near her, besides no one has ever loved me like that before so how was I supposed to recognize it? Naruto shot back at her. Sakura sighed again and said, I guess you have a point. You know Naruto, when you were gone for 3 years, Hinata came and ate here every day to make sure we stayed open for your return. We have watched her wait for you every day until you returned," the old man said. Naruto turned back to where he saw her run. The only thing he could think to say was, "Hinata?" 3 days later, Naruto showed up to his training late, which was early for Kakashi, and noticed he and Neji were arriving at the same time. "You seem excited, Naruto," Neji stated. "Yay, I finally mastered transferring and recalling my chakra, so Kakashi-sensei said he was going to move on to the next phase of my training by trying to help me unlock another path," he responded. Just then Kakashi appeared in a cloud of smoke holding another book as usual. As he put his newest book away, he turned and said, "Morning Naruto, are you ready to start?" "What the hell are you reading now?" Naruto said, stopping his sentence. Kakashi looked back at the book in his hand saying, "Oh, just something I picked up on the way here." It looked promising, but Kakashi sighed, then continued, "Sadly, I haven't found a good substitute for Jiraiya's books. He truly was a genius with words." "Arrow Sennin?" Naruto said while staring down at the ground. It was obvious he was reliving some of his memories with his deceased master in his head. Seeing Naruto's reaction, Kakashi tried to change the subject by saying, "Oh, by the way, Sakura informed me that you're not so inept with women after all." "What?" Naruto said, snapping out of his daze. "I was told all the details of your kiss with Hinata," he explained. "You kissed Hinata?" Neji asked just before he lunged after Naruto. Naruto instantly started blocking his attacks as he said, "And no, it wasn't like that." Neji swung towards Naruto's head and was just about to connect when Kakashi appeared before him holding his wrist in place. "Now let's not start jumping to conclusions without all the details, Neji. Oh, and for the record, Hinata was the one who kissed Naruto," Kakashi said as he looked to Naruto. "Anyways, that's enough talk. Are you ready, Naruto?" Both ninja relaxed, then looked at Kakashi. Naruto nodded his assent and waited for Kakashi to continue. "Good, but before we begin, where is Hinata anyways?" he asked. "She's been avoiding me since the incident," Naruto said, glancing at Neji when he said the last part. "Oh well, I guess we will have to go on without her then. Neji, from here on Naruto's training is going to become more dangerous. You can leave now if you wish, I have no problem training Naruto myself." "No, I'll stay. I wouldn't be able to call myself a ninja if I ran from danger. It's also my duty as part of the Hyuga clan to help protect the village. Helping Naruto with his training is another way that I am looking out for the village's safety," he responded. "Spoken like a true ninja. Very well, Naruto, it's time to test my theory," he said to the blonde-haired ninja. "What is it, Kakashi-sensei?" "I'm glad you asked. You have obviously mastered transferring and recalling your chakra now, correct?" He waited until Naruto nodded, then continued. "During the attack on the village, there were reports of one of the pains being able to steal the chakra of anyone he held onto. For the next step, we are going to modify your training of recalling your chakra and see if you can steal Neji's." "Oh, I get it. Wow, this is going to be so cool," Naruto said, excited. "Neji, today all you will have to do is allow Naruto to hold onto you, and if I'm right, steal your chakra. Remember, if this works, if Naruto happens to hold on too long and steal too much chakra, it could put you into a coma. Or worse, kill you," he said sternly. "I understand," was all the acknowledgement he gave. "Naruto, get ready," Kakashi called out. Naruto walked over to Neji and got behind him. He grabbed Neji under the arms the same way that Pain had held him as he stole his chakra during the attack on Konoha. "Okay Naruto, now try and see if you can see or feel Neji's chakra." After a few minutes, Naruto said, "I can sense it." "Alright, Naruto, I want you to focus on Neji's chakra, then try and do what you usually do to recall your chakra from your clones." Naruto and Neji stood like that for 20 minutes. Both ninja remained completely motionless except for the occasional twitch from Neji. Finally Naruto dropped his arms in frustration and walked away, growling to himself. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Kakashi asked. "Nothing is happening. I figured that this would be easy compared to my sage. Hold on, I have an idea," Naruto said as he walked back to Neji. Naruto grabbed Neji the same way again and both stood motionless for a minute until Naruto started grinning. Finally he let go of Neji, who was now trying to catch his breath as though he just finished a hard workout. "What happened?" Kakashi asked confused. Well, when I had to learn Sage Jutsu first I had to learn to see the nature energy around me, then learn how to draw it in and balance it. All I did was focus until I could feel Neji's chakra, then I focused on trying to draw it in as if it were nature energy and not Neji's chakra. Naruto explained. I take it by Neji's appearance that it worked. Naruto, I'm impressed. You're starting to think more and not just try until it works. Naruto looked back to where Neji was leaning on one knee and said, sorry I took so much chakra, Neji. It's okay, Naruto. Neji replied. Naruto then performed a shadow clone jutsu, making 3 clones appear. Naruto gasped loudly and started to fall forwards as a wave of dizziness washed over him. Just before he hit the ground, Kakashi caught him. Easy, Naruto. Every time you unlock another path it becomes harder to adjust. Take things slowly for now. Take a few days to readjust, then be back here again in the morning. When you return we'll begin working on the next phase of your training. What's next? Naruto said as he looked up at Kakashi. Kakashi just sighed at his determination then said, next is Genjutsu. Don't worry about that now, Naruto, you have a visitor. Naruto looked confused, then Kakashi nodded his head to the edge of the training ground. Following his nod, Naruto looked over and saw Hinata clinging to the side of a tree watching them. When she realized they saw her she ducked behind the tree. Naruto stood and said, Neji, one of my clones will help you until you've recovered. There's no need. He started to refuse. Just accept it and be grateful. Naruto said forcefully, then continued. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, I'll see you later. I'm sending my clones to help rebuild the village while I go have a talk with Hinata. Kakashi watched Naruto walk away as he thought, go get her, Naruto. Then he smiled to himself and disappeared. Naruto walked to the edge of the training ground to find Hinata still blushing behind the tree. Hey Hinata, can we talk? Naruto and Hinata were walking through the woods, Naruto occasionally stumbling as he adjusted to having 4 sets of eyes. Whenever he would stumble, Hinata would help to steady him before Naruto started walking again with Hinata following his lead. They were both quiet for a while until a wave of dizziness crashed over Naruto again, this time sending him to earth. Naruto! Hinata cried as she managed to catch him in time before he hit the ground. Naruto looked up at her as he and all his clones thought, damn, she's cute. Hey, are you okay, Naruto-kun? She asked. I'm fine, just getting used to this. It seems to get harder to get used to the more I progress. Thanks for catching me, he said calmly. You shouldn't push yourself, Hinata said in a worried tone. I'm fine, anyways, I wanted to talk to you about the other day but I didn't know how to start, he said as he stood. Hinata started to blush and turn away, remembering what had happened as she said, forget it. It was nothing. It wasn't, it meant something to you, I could tell. Look, I understand you have liked me for a while and I was an idiot for not realizing it. Naruto put a hand behind his head as he continued. I'm just not used to this because I was always alone. Naruto? Hinata started but Naruto kept going. Naruto was now poking his 2 index fingers together like he did when he was nervous as he said, I may not care for you like you do for me now, but I've always respected you for trying so hard to be a ninja and I really like you as a friend. I think you're cute too, so if you'll give me a chance I'll try come to understand you better and care for you like you do for me. I mean, it's not coming out right. What I mean to say is I like you, so will you go out with me? Naruto-kun, Hinata screamed as she hugged him as tears streamed down her face. Naruto was caught off guard but eventually returned the hug. They stayed that way for a while as Naruto's clones all smiled to themselves as they helped to rebuild the village. When they broke apart, Naruto looked at Hinata and said, so I take it that's a yes. 6 months later, Naruto had been working with Kakashi, tirelessly trying to learn Genjutsu and figure out how to unlock his last 3 paths. They were going over all of Lord Pain's different paths abilities, trying to find some sort of clues. Well, I already unlocked the Diva path, Preta path, and my animal path. What were the other ones again? There was the human path, Naraka path, and the Asura path. We know the human path could steal souls and reports say it could read the mind of its victims before stealing their soul. The Naraka path summoned a genjutsu that was so advanced it could kill you if you lied or didn't answer anything the user asked. Finally, the Asura path was almost like a robot. As far as its abilities, there are no reports of anything other than the weapons used from its mechanical body. Speaking of your animal path Naruto, are you planning on adding in more to your list of summons, or are you sticking with the toads from Mount Myoboku? Huh? Oh, I figured I would just stick with the toads. If I have to I'll add more later, but I kinda don't know how to right now. Naruto said, causing Kakashi to sweat drop before he continued. Kakashi-sensei, the Naraka path, is that why I'm learning genjutsu? That, and I believe that the human path's mind reading was another form of advanced genjutsu similar to the mind reading ninjutsu of the Yamanaka clan. I had a theory that learning genjutsu would help you to unlock both paths, but so far, no such luck. Though I do admit you are getting quite good at genjutsu. At this rate you may surpass Sasuke, although we have no information on his ability to use genjutsu at the moment. Sasuke? Naruto started, then quickly looked at Kakashi. Well, why not? You even said yourself I'm getting good at genjutsu, so why have I not unlocked another path? While he did say that Naruto, you still have a long way to go, and it could be that both techniques are not genjutsu at all but ninjutsu. After all, they're only theories. Neji interjected. Or maybe you don't have the right motivation. Kakashi said, thinking to himself. What, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked, confused. Naruto, I think you need a break from training. Kakashi said before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Great, he goes all cryptic then disappears. Naruto said, sounding exasperated. Why don't we spar while he's gone? Neji asked. Why not? Naruto said, getting into a taijutsu stance. Neji followed into a taijutsu stance of his own as he said, this training has actually helped me almost as much as it's helped you, Naruto. I've noticed, but I'm still going to kick your ass. He chided. We'll see, Naruto, was Neji's response. Naruto performed a shadow clone jutsu, making 3 clones appear. He saw the now familiar split of his vision, then instantly on the attack. The real Naruto created a Rasengan which he managed to perfect without the use of a clone during his training with Kakashi and Neji with the help of his Rinnegan. The Dojutsu really helped him not only learn genjutsu but increased his chakra control drastically. Neji was dodging Naruto's animal path as he noticed Naruto's Preta path run behind him. Neji was about to do his rotation technique when suddenly Naruto's animal path ducked just as his diva path jumped at him. The diva path then raised his hands as it said, push. Neji was blasted into the air by the sudden attack. As he flew through the air, Naruto's Preta path jumped and caught him by the arms, stopping his flight and ceasing his arms from moving as it already started to drain his chakra. As the Preta path and Neji landed, the real Naruto lunged forward with his Rasengan. Just before it made contact with Neji's abdomen, Hinata appeared. Hinata-chan, Naruto called out as he dispersed his Rasengan and ran over to her. Hey Naruto-kun, was all she got out before Naruto pressed a kiss to her lips. With the battle forgotten, Naruto's clones let Neji go. As he stood and saw the two kiss, he groaned, saying, do you really have to do that in front of me? She is my cousin, you know. By the way, Naruto, we were sparring and you just walked away. TCH, I was about to win anyways. Be glad I saved you the humiliation in front of your cousin. Naruto said sarcastically. I'll have you next time, Naruto. Neji said as Naruto returned his attention to Hinata, who, even though was over her stuttering, still blushed madly when Naruto kissed her. Suddenly Kakashi reappeared before them holding a scroll. He smiled at the couple as he said, Naruto, we have a mission. What about my training? Naruto said angrily, even though he was glad for the distraction from his training. It's on hold until we get back. Kakashi replied. Who's going? It'll be a 3-man cell consisting of you, Sakura, and myself. Now go home and rest, we leave in the morning. Kakashi said before disappearing again. The next morning Naruto met Sakura by the gate. He showed up in his usual orange and black attire but was also wearing his customary cloak as proof of his sagehood. Now though it held the Uzumaki clan symbol on the back, Sakura was stunned by how the simple addition to his normal clothes made him seem older. Hey Sakura, looks like Kakashi-sensei is late as always. He said to her. Huh? Oh yay, like always. She said as she ignored how he left off the usual suffix since him and Hinata started dating. She felt her jealousy rising up again but quickly dismissed it as thoughts of Sasuke made her feel guilty for feeling jealous. I wonder what the mission is. Naruto said, snapping Sakura out of her thoughts. I don't know, Kakashi-sensei didn't tell me. Me either. The two ninja waited for another half an hour before Kakashi appeared in a cloud of smoke. It's about time. Sakura said, sounding exasperated. Oh sorry, I was on my way here when this old lady needed help with her groceries, then her cat ran away and, Kakashi said, rubbing the back of his head. Shut it. Both the blonde and pink-haired ninja shouted in unison as they interrupted Kakashi. Sheesh. What is this mission anyways, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked, crossing his arms. Just then Kakashi grew serious but at the same time looked bored as he said, we have heard reports of another rogue ninja organization making moves to destroy Konoha in its weakened state. This is an A-rank mission to recover any information possible. Naruto, they may not be Akatsuki but they are ninja powerful enough to destroy Konoha if left unchecked, which is why this is an A-rank mission, therefore be on guard and don't take them lightly. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go, Naruto said, excited as he ran ahead. Wait up, Naruto, Sakura screamed as she chased after him. Kakashi watched them run ahead. When they were a good distance away he smirked under his mask as he said, this should be just what Naruto needs, I just hope he doesn't kill them before he figures out the truth. That said, he smiled under his mask again as he moved to catch up to them. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura were traveling through the trees in search of their target organization they had been sent to gather information on. They had been traveling all day, scanning every inch of Fire Country in hopes of finding their camp. They came across a couple of camps, but after further investigation, deduced they were just random bandit camps. With nothing to pin on the bandits and their mission taking precedence, the three ninja continued their search for the enemy nin. Naruto, however, had been distracted, wondering how they would tell them apart from these bandit camps they passed. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said to catch his attention. What is it, Naruto? Inquired Kakashi. I was just wondering if there were any distinguishing features we should be looking for to help find these rogue ninja. Naruto said, trying not to sound dumb. Kakashi smiled under his mask before saying, I'm glad you asked, Naruto, you're sounding more like a Junin every day. The answer is yes. The only thing we know of the enemy is that the main members all wear black cloaks that have a green lining at the edge of the collar, sleeves, and bottom. However, the organization has lower ninja that has joined them that they use mainly as surveillance, so their organization is aware of any threat that may approach. The regular ninja that stand guard wear all black with the green stripes on their clothes as well, however they do not have the cloak. Kakashi-sensei, is that the same uniform you're talking about? Sakura asked, pointing to their left. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura all switched direction to where Sakura pointed. They traveled for a few trees until they came to a stop as close and silently as they could to the enemy camp. Kakashi took a look at the camp and noticed green stripes on the arms and legs of the enemy ninja and smiled. Very good, Sakura. Everyone fall back, we need to make a plan. Kakashi said in a hushed voice while mentally he thought, good, they're all in place. They should be aware of our presence by now and one of the rogue ninja should be coming out as we speak. Suddenly one of the main tents opened and a man in a black cloak with green lining the collar, sleeves, and bottom stepped out. He quickly surveyed the area, then started barking some order at the ninja around him. Naruto noticed this and mentally noted him as one of the main members for later. Finally, the three fell back to a clearing hidden in the trees that Kakashi deemed suitable for them to talk and still monitor the enemy. So what's the plan, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked him. Why don't we ask Naruto? You seem to be getting better at reasoning and strategy since receiving the Rinnegan, I'd like to hear what you think. He stated calmly. Me, Kakashi-sensei? But why? You're the one in charge. Naruto fumbled to say. Because Naruto, one day it will be you in charge of Genin or Chunin of your own, so I think it's wise to test your reasoning skills. Kakashi replied. Well, I think we should try to attack at night so we will have the advantage with your Sharingan and my Rinnegan. Sakura will be at a disadvantage with her eyes but should be on the same level of seeing as the enemy. Since we're trying to gather information, I guess I can have my clones take out all the guards while me, you, and Sakura all go for the main organization. They will have the most information. Naruto stated nervously. Very good, Naruto, it sounds pretty reasonable to me, although we do need to take them seriously though, don't underestimate them. Kakashi stated, then turned to Sakura and said, remember, we're here to capture them if possible and gain information. Do not under any circumstances kill any of them. If you feel you may lose your life, send up a signal, then fall back to this clearing and we will all meet up, then head back to the village. Both ninja nodded, then went to set up their camp, even though they would be leaving after their staged attack on the enemy camp. After setting up a fire and masking the smoke so not to attract attention, Naruto started to cook some ramen as Sakura took out some fish she brought along to cook. Meanwhile, Kakashi sat against a tree reading the same book Naruto had pointed out earlier, or at least Sakura and Naruto thought he was reading. Kakashi was actually lost in his own thoughts about the mission and Naruto. They really pulled through considering how short notice this surprise mission was, and Naruto seems to be growing not in just strength either. He may well surpass Sensei at this rate. Naruto, you truly are amazing, he thought as he watched his favorite blonde slurp down a cup of ramen like it's no tomorrow. Later that evening, Naruto and Sakura were finishing the final steps to packing up their temporary camp as Kakashi finally sat up from the tree. Walking over to both of his students, he looked over the remains of their camp, which he was surprised showed no signs of anyone being there. Good work, you two, you have both become great outdoor survivalists. Now are you ready to be ninja? He asked, smirking under his mask. Naruto turned to Kakashi with a gleam in his eye as he said, I'm ready. They won't know what hit them. Ready, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura called as she walked over. The three instantly jumped into the trees after they stored their supplies. They moved silently through the trees to the enemy camp. The sun had just gone down when they arrived and Kakashi called a halt just out of sight of the camp. What's wrong, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. Nothing, the sun just went down so we have time to strike still. For now I want you two to study their guarding habits so we can choose the right time to catch them the most off guard. He replied calmly. They continued to watch the enemy ninja for a while until Kakashi said, now. Naruto, send in your clones to dispatch the guards. We'll follow right behind them and go for the main tent, that's where most of the main members will be. Move. Instantly Naruto made 3 clones that took off into a silent sprint to the enemy camp as Naruto's vision split 4 ways. Being used to it now, Naruto didn't gasp when his vision split but rather charged in right after his clones but headed straight for the main tent with Sakura and Kakashi quickly following. Naruto's clones each hit the camp quickly and started dispatching enemy ninja as fast as possible. They were easy opponents for Naruto's clones, but it was a daunting task just because of the sheer numbers. This organization has a lot of support to have gone under the radar for so long. Thought the real Naruto as he and his teammates made their way to the main tent. Naruto's Diva Path. Naruto's Diva Path had been dispatching enemy after enemy when suddenly one of the cloaked members landed in front of him. Noticing the cloak, Diva Path quickly took a more defensive stance, rather than the offensive one he had been using for the lower-ranked ninja. Not wanting to underestimate his opponent, he waited for him to make the first move. That was when something weird happened. Almost as if to counteract his Rinnegan, the area around both Naruto and his opponent got exponentially darker, making his Rinnegan fight just to be able to see in the dim lighting, let alone make out subtle details. Suddenly Naruto noticed a sudden puff of smoke appear, and once it cleared, another figure in a cloak stood beside his enemy. Both not only wore cloaks, they had hoods as well that were drawn up over their heads, which seemed to mask their faces in the dim surrounding. Looking at the figure beside his opponent, his Rinnegan allowed him to see it wasn't a shadow clone but rather a henge jutsu. These people were obviously hiding something. Before Naruto could formulate a plan to dispatch his enemy without killing them, his opponent attacked. Both the opponent and the figure beside them launching forward as he heard a woman scream, fang over fang. Both figures instantly took on the form of 2 spiraling tornadoes that destroyed anything in their path. They both aimed at Naruto, but using his Rinnegan-enhanced reflexes, Naruto dodged out of the way of one of the attackers and turned just in time to blast it away. Push! Naruto screamed just before they collided with him head-on, sending them in the opposite direction. Pushing his advantage, Naruto instantly drew a kunai and threw it at the figure he dodged. The figure easily dodged his kunai, landing just in time where Naruto was now standing. With great restraint, Naruto forced himself to aim to dispatch his opponent but not kill. Only to be caught off guard by the figure's mysterious ally. Naruto's Animal Path. Naruto's Animal Path was dispatching the lower-ranked ninja like Naruto's Diva Path as well when a cloaked figure had landed in front of him as well. Again, the cloaked figure was wearing a hood which obscured their face as the area dimmed around them. Naruto's Rinnegan was adjusting to the light and helped him to see in the poor lighting, which should have given him the advantage, but from what he was already learning from the fight his diva path was in, the enemy clearly had somehow overcome the darkness and were using it to their advantage instead. So much for using the dark to our advantage, Naruto thought to himself. Human bullet tank. Naruto's opponent said just before Naruto noticed his opponent had already formed into a ball and was now trying to run him over. Thinking quickly, Naruto did a summoning jutsu, bringing Gamakichi to the enemy camp in time for Naruto to hop on top and Gamakichi to launch himself out of the way of the oversized human bullet headed in their direction. Naruto, what gives? I was back at Myoboku sleeping and next thing I know you've summoned me and I'm having to dodge some oversized attack. Gamakichi asked as they flew through the air from his mighty jump. Now isn't the time to get mad at me. With my summoning jutsu you should be ready to act as soon as I summon you, and right now is that time. Naruto explained. I understand that, but next time you better have some food once we're done. The orange toad replied. Naruto instantly sweat dropped when he heard this, then said, okay, I'll have some food next time. That was when Naruto and Gamakichi landed and turned to where they just narrowly dodged their opponent. Naruto then turned to the orange toad and they both nodded to each other before Naruto performed another summoning jutsu, this time summoning Gamatotsu. Ah, Naruto, where's the food? You usually have food. The yellow toad whined. I already told Gamakichi next time I'll have food, but right now I need your help. Remember the jutsu the three of us used on the three tails? Naruto asked. The yellow and orange toads both nodded to Naruto before Gamatotsu disappeared and Naruto quickly summoned him back. Upon his arrival back, the three turned in unison when they heard their opponent say, human bullet tank. The cloaked figure shot towards them at great speed as Naruto jumped behind the two toads and shot his hand forwards onto Gamatotsu's back, forcing chakra to his hand, causing Gamatotsu to launch the toad oil he drank out like a water cannon, which quickly was followed by Gamakichi's fire bullet. Toad oil flame bullet. The three shouted in unison as the water cannon suddenly erupted into flames, wreathing their opponent in flames as well. Naruto's Preta path. Just like Naruto's two other clones, his Preta path had been easily dispatching several numbers of the lower-ranked ninja when another cloaked figure landed before him. This time it was expected and didn't surprise him at all when the area dimmed dramatically. As his Rinnegan adjusted, he again noticed his opponent's hood concealing his face. Unlike the other two battles that were waging right now with Naruto's other paths, this path planned on getting the jump on the enemy. Naruto instantly charged the opponent and started doing taijutsu. His opponent had been effectively dodging his attacks, but Naruto thought he had broke through their defenses as he almost got a hold of their arm. If I can just get a hold on them, I can drain their chakra until they're unconscious. Naruto thought as his opponent pulled away at the last second. Shadow paralysis jutsu. The cloaked figure said when suddenly Naruto's body stopped moving. What? Naruto asked no one in particular. You're paralyzed by your own shadow. When I allowed you to come in close to attack me, I took the opportunity to paralyze you. Now let's see you get those chakra-stealing hands on me, the cloaked figure said to him. Naruto was astounded. How did this person know about his abilities? They obviously were spying on Konoha and his training sessions with Kakashi. Nagato warned Kakashi-sensei. He thought just before the cloaked figure stepped in front of him. The real Naruto. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto screamed as they neared the main tent. What is it, Naruto? Kakashi asked quickly. They know about my abilities and they're using techniques from the village. Sakura, be on guard, they're more informed than we realized, Kakashi said to the pink-haired girl before they finally reached the main tent. The three entered the main tent only to be confronted by two of the cloaked figures, all of them concealing their faces as the lighting dimmed. Kakashi-sensei, I can't see, Sakura said in a hushed tone so her opponents wouldn't hear. Leave this to us, Sakura. When we call you for help, do your best. For now, try to stay out of the way, Kakashi stated in his protective battle voice. Go, check on the others, see if any of them need help. Go, one of the cloaked figures said to the other before one disappeared. Turning to the three, the cloaked figure said, well, I must say I am honored that Konoha has graced us with three of its most prized ninja, particularly you, Naruto Uzumaki. How would you like to join us? If you do, we'll spare your lives. I'd rather die, Naruto said defiantly. A pity, it seems we'll just have to kill you, which will make it that much more easier to take down the leaf. Especially in your weakened state. The cloaked figure said with great emphasis on the last part. Suddenly the figure disappeared without the familiar poof sound they were used to indicating a ninjutsu. No, this was all done by physical prowess, which meant this guy was fast. Naruto and Kakashi went on guard as Sakura did her best to stay out of the fight like Kakashi had instructed. That was when Kakashi was sent flying across the tent. Naruto had barely time to register what had happened when he was sent in the opposite direction. The two ninja were caught off guard but not injured too severely. They managed to get back up just in time for Naruto to be assaulted by a barrage of taijutsu that he could barely make out in the dim lighting even with his Rinnegan. These truly were difficult ninja. Naruto had just been knocked to the other side of the tent again when Sakura saw Kakashi start to take on an almost invisible force. The fight lasted for a couple minutes before Kakashi performed the hand seals for his signature Chidori. With his Chidori giving off enough light for Sakura to see, Kakashi charged the opponent, aiming to wound but not kill them as he called out, "Sakura, grab his other arm now." Suddenly Sakura sprinted forward as their opponent desperately tried to fend off Kakashi. Sakura got in range of the opponent near the middle of the tent when Kakashi's Chidori went out, leaving his opponent's eyes unfocused and unable to see, giving Sakura enough time to grab his left arm and Kakashi to grab his right arm. Forcing their opponent to his knees, both held his arms in place as he fought to break their hold. Kakashi looked to Naruto and yelled, "Naruto, quick, try to gain any information from him you can." Naruto ran over but stopped just in front of him and asked, "How, Kakashi-sensei?" "Use your new technique we've been working on," he said as he fought their opponent back down. "I couldn't get it to work." Naruto protested. "Naruto, hurry, we can't hold him much longer," Kakashi said forcefully. Without hesitation, Naruto threw their opponent's hood back to reveal a man with scars covering his left cheek and neck-length brown hair tied in the back for practicality in battle. After quickly surveying his features, Naruto placed his hand on his head in hopes his technique would work. At first nothing happened. "Naruto, is it working?" Sakura gasped out, her voice sounding strained. "I can't feel or see any." That was when mental images started to appear in his head. "Wait, I think I have something. Hurry," Kakashi said urgently as he forced his opponent's leg back down to his knee. Naruto stood there for what felt like an infinite amount of time to him as he saw images that were soon accompanied by sounds of Konoha, information about their rebuilding in ninja strength, and Gai-sensei? Naruto was confused. He kept seeing scenes of Gai-sensei with Rock Lee and Neji and Tenten. These were quickly followed by Kakashi-sensei asking him to help stage a surprise mission as a distraction for Naruto. Guy had agreed, then went about getting recruits for their supposed guards, and the other cloaked ninja followed by agreeing on a uniform. Then once it was all decided, it was put into a mission scroll for Kakashi in case Naruto or Sakura happened to ask about it. The last image Naruto saw was Gai-sensei standing in his trademark green jumpsuit holding his hand in the thumbs up sign and saying, "Congratulations for showing the spirit of youth, Naruto. It's all arouse," Naruto yelled. Instantly Naruto understood everything. They weren't copying Konoha Ninja. They were Konoha Ninja and they were helping put on a fake mission for Naruto, Sakura, and Kakashi. What Kakashi hadn't counted on was this wasn't a genjutsu, or even a ninjutsu. In fact, it wasn't a jutsu at all. It truly was mind reading, but only limited to if he held his hand on the person's head. Once Naruto had figured all this out, he dropped his hand from the person's head. As soon as he did, their henge jutsu dropped, revealing Gai-sensei smiling in his trademark way. Upon seeing him, Kakashi and Sakura dropped his arms, then Kakashi turned to Naruto and smiled through his mask. "Congratulations, Naruto, I knew you could do it," Kakashi said happily. "I don't understand. What's going on, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura asked. "The mission was staged to help put me under pressure to learn my next path," Naruto calmly explained to Sakura, who still looked confused. "Wait, I just unlocked my next path," Naruto exclaimed as he performed a shadow clone jutsu. With the addition of another clone, Naruto felt his vision split in a fifth direction and he suddenly fell over, barely being caught by Sakura. "Naruto," Sakura said in a worried tone. "It's okay, Sakura, it's just sensory overload. He'll be fine eventually once he's used it. For now it looks like we will have to carry him back to the village." Kakashi said to calm her down. I'll do it, Kakashi, Guy said to him eagerly, causing Kakashi to sweat drop. Okay, but take it slow so Naruto can adjust. You got it, Kakashi, see you at the village, Guy said as he loaded Naruto onto his back and sprinted to the village. I said take it slow, Kakashi called when he saw how fast he ran away with Naruto. Kakashi sighed as he turned back around to see all of Naruto's clones and fellow Leaf Ninja standing behind him. He looked at them all as he said, "Mission accomplished everyone, let's go home." Naruto had been back in the village for a while, taking advantage of his time off to recover from unlocking his human path on his mission. Sakura had showed up a few hours after the enthusiastic Guy-sensei sprinted a disoriented Naruto back to the village. Upon arriving, she saw Guy and Naruto talking to each other as they waited for the rest of the people involved in the mission to return home. Sakura instantly ran over to check on Naruto. "Naruto, are you alright? You almost passed out back at the mission, or whatever that was," the pink-haired ninja said, still clueless of what really had happened. "Oh, about that, it wasn't a real mission, Sakura. Kakashi and everyone set it up to help me unlock my path. They were putting me under pressure without the distraction of training to block me from figuring it out. It was all just a ruse," Naruto explained as Sakura gaped at how well smart Naruto sounded just now. "Oh, so it worked?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Yay, although I have my clones out doing some D-rank missions right now to help put on some of the village's final touches. It's difficult to allot right now because of what Kakashi-sensei explained as sensory overload, so me and my clones are taking things slow like painting for now," he explained to Sakura. "How are you feeling, Naruto?" Kakashi said as he walked up beside Sakura, beaming with pride at his sensei's son. "I feel fine, but it's hard to do a lot right now, so I'm taking things slowly," Naruto reiterated for Kakashi. "Well, Naruto, since you just unlocked another path, we will taking a week off from training until you readjust. Although before I leave I have just one question," he said calmly. "What is it, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked. "Was it a genjutsu after all?" Kakashi asked, baffling Naruto for a second until he realized what he meant. "No, I didn't use a genjutsu at all, I just stood there and when I was about to give up something came to me. It really is mind reading," Naruto said, sounding amazed at his own ability. "Well, it may not be useful in battle, but another path won't be without its advantages at least. Meet me back at Training Ground 7 in a week to begin your training again," he said as he was about to turn to leave. "How do you know how long it will take me to recover?" "You've been right every time," Naruto asked curiously. "Oh, well, it's because I had to deal with the same thing with my training before I became a Chunin," Kakashi said. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, wanting him to elaborate. "I guess I never really told you guys this story before." Where to begin?" "Oh, you both know how I have senses as cute as a dog's?" Kakashi asked as both ninja nodded together, then he continued. "Well, before I was like Sakura here, who has just the normal range of senses as any normal human, but I undertook a training to heighten my senses to be as keen as a dog's. Every time my senses would become more keen, it would take longer and longer for me to recover and adjust. I'm merely basing your recovery time along with mine, though it seems to be accurate. I would have done less time if I factored in your heightened healing ability from the 9 tails, but seeing as it also heightens your senses, your recovery time to adjust to your enhanced eyesight seems to be about average." "Wow, that's so cool, Kakashi-sensei," Sakura said, staring at him in awe. Kakashi smiled under his mask at the two ninja and walked away as he called out, "See you in a week, Naruto." A week later, Naruto was enjoying his week off but was disappointed that it was about to come to an end. Naruto was walking towards Training Ground 7 to resume his training when Hinata met him and started to walk with him. Eventually Naruto couldn't stand it and enveloped her in his arms and stole a kiss from her. Suddenly Hinata started blushing madly as she broke the kiss from Naruto to find his 4 other paths surrounding her and planting kisses over her body. "Naruto-kun, not in public. You know how much your clones make me blush even if they are all still just you," she said pleadingly. Naruto grinned sheepishly at her, then replied, "I know, but it's so fun watching you blush." With that they walked in silence to Training Ground 7. Training Ground 7. Naruto and Hinata had just walked up when they saw Kakashi speaking to Neji. Naruto and Hinata moved to join them and catch up to speed on their conversation when Kakashi turned to Naruto. Sensing what they were doing, Kakashi saved Naruto the trouble and explained. Naruto, me and Neji were just talking, and seeing as how your last ability was what it was told to be, we were wondering if your other ability was genjutsu as I had earlier thought. If it isn't, then we are in a little predicament, seeing as I don't know how to unlock an ability I have no information about. Neji seems to think the answer lies in your Rinnegan somewhere, so for today all we will be doing is meditation. You will be meditating about your Rinnegan, looking for clues as to how to unlock your Naraka path. Kakashi explained. But how is that going to help me learn it? Naruto asked curiously. You will be searching inside of your own mind by using your human path's ability on yourself. I'm not entirely sure if it will work or not, but it is worth a shot. Just start meditating on your Rinnegan and try to use your human path to learn anything you can. Kakashi explained, hoping Naruto would understand, considering he wasn't entirely sure if he even understood his own plan. Oh, I get it, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said before he quickly created a shadow clone in front of him. Naruto sat down and instantly started to meditate, trying his best to put all thoughts aside other than thoughts of how to unlock his Naraka path. Naruto's clone, however, calmly walked over to the real Naruto and placed his hand over his head and closed his eyes. During all this, the real Naruto never even flinched, or moved for that matter. Kakashi seemed to notice. Naruto, you truly amaze me when I see where you came from to where you are now. Kakashi thought to himself as he watched the scene before him. Neji walked over to Kakashi and gestured to Naruto and his clone standing over him, then said, "Is that what you were talking about, Kakashi-sensei?" Well, not exactly. Naruto seems to have his own way of doing things. So far they have proven to be effective, even though they may seem a little unorthodox sometimes, so I don't question his methods anymore when he has an idea to help his train. Kakashi suddenly stopped talking when he saw a ring of purple flames rise from the ground beside where Naruto and his clone were. That was when they saw it. Neji, turning to see what had captured Kakashi's attention, turned to where Naruto sat just in time to see the outer path rise from the ring of flames and consume Naruto and his clone. Naruto! Both Neji and Kakashi shouted in unison as they ran toward them. When Neji and Kakashi were just about to reach the outer path, it turned to them with a malicious grin on his face as it sunk back into the flames it came from. Kakashi wouldn't admit it, but the look on the outer path's face sent feelings of dread through him for Naruto's sake, not because of the malicious grin it had as it left. No, he saw through the malicious grin and saw what he thought looked like a look of triumph, not malice. Why would the outer path feel triumphant? Kakashi thought as he tried to reason things out in his mind, to no avail. Where did they go? Neji asked, letting his feelings of shock and worry show plainly on his face, something rare for him. They're in the outer world now. We can't do anything for Naruto anymore. Only time will tell what will happen to Naruto now. Kakashi stated plainly as he turned and realized a crying Hinata who had seen everything. She'd been here all along, and they had just dismissed her and left her alone as she watched her love sink into the outer world. The outer world. Naruto felt a feather-light touch on his cheek that felt like snow, although it wasn't cold. Putting this aside, he tried to focus on his Naraka path again when he realized his clone dispelled. Naruto groaned and stood up ready to make another clone when he realized he wasn't at the training ground anymore. Now he was in what looked like a palace that was pure white in contrast to the growing darkness around him. Okay, Kakashi-sensei, enough with the test. I don't think it'll help me unlock my next path like last time. He called out, hoping for it all to be dropped away like a genjutsu. Hitaki, Kakashi is not here. A voice boomed behind him. If Naruto had heard it in battle, he would have thought it dripped with venom, like someone very angry. Now though, it seemed as though someone was becoming mildly annoyed. Turning around, Naruto looked up to meet the bright, demonic yellow eyes of Yama himself. Naruto instantly took a step back at the sight of him, making Yama smile as though he was amused at his fear. Looking closer at the scene around him, he now noticed the snow he thought he felt earlier was actually ash that was occasionally falling around the room. It would have been weird already, but the fact that they were inside with no fire in sight creeped him out. Naruto also noted that outside the moon was full and glowing brightly, illuminating a wide desert with an endlessly black sky and no sign of stars anywhere. The desert seemed to surround the palace. Naruto could tell, even though he hadn't looked around to test that theory. Finally he looked back at Yama, flinching as he stared back into his demonic yellow eyes. Do not be afraid, Uzumaki Naruto, you have nothing to fear here. This is a place for the dead, something you are not of. I can see you have figured out who I am, but the question is, why are you here? Yama said as if he were having a chat with a friend over coffee. Naruto stuttered as he tried to answer him, saying, I was just wanting to know how to unlock my Naraka path, then I showed up here. King Yama just smiled at him as if amused by his fear again, but leaned forward and stared into his eyes as though he was checking to see if there was anything false about his explanation. King Yama stared into his eyes for what seemed like a while to Naruto, but finally, seeming satisfied he hadn't lied, he pulled away. Naruto let out a breath. He now realized he was holding once King Yama pulled away. Well, since you don't know how you ended up here, I shall enlighten you. As you pondered how to unlock your Naraka path, you unknowingly summoned the outer path, which is a gateway to the outer world, my kingdom that you see before you now. Only the bearer of the Rinnegan has this ability, and the only way to obtain it is by asking my permission. If this is what you wish, then you shall have to prove to me you are worthy of holding this great responsibility. King Yama's voice boomed without effort, and Naruto realized it was just his natural power that caused this, not just a show of power to scare the new souls that ventured into the afterlife. What if I don't want this power? Naruto asked, testing to see King Yama's reaction. Oh, you have the audacity to deny a responsibility I don't give lightly? King Yama asked Naruto, scrutinizing. No, it's not that I deny it. I merely want to know if there is another way to unlock my Naraka path without gaining this ability. I am a ninja, but I don't take life lightly. That is why I do not wish to have a power that merely chooses life or death if they lie to me. Besides, I already have the ability to read minds, so why would I need the ability to detect a lie if I can just look for myself? Naruto said, expecting King Yama to rip out his tongue for being so bold. What came was the opposite of what Naruto expected, though. When he heard King Yama burst into a fit of laughter, you would hear from someone who had just heard the punchline to a hilarious joke. Finally his laughter subsided as he said, Uzumaki Naruto, you are truly an interesting soul. I find your love of human life to be heartening, so I shall grant your request. I will give you a gift as formidable as the outer path, but you must prove your worthiness first. I will also alter your human path's ability as well, since you seem to have a luster for life most mortals do not. This gift shall become your Naraka path and alter your human path if you choose to take my test. Do you accept my terms, Uzumaki Naruto? What do I have to do? Naruto asked suspiciously. Naruto had set out through the white desert surrounding King Yama's palace to embark on his test. He was wondering how King Yama planned to alter his human path and Naraka path, as he referred to it. The thought had consumed him so much that he barely noticed the desert around him until he finally realized he had reached the end and came to the edge of a dark forest. Naruto surveyed the forest once he was brought out of his obsessing thoughts, noting the large trees that looked dead but somehow seemed to obscure all light in the forest floor beneath despite the absence of leaves. It's too dark to go on foot. I could walk into a trap or get ambushed without even knowing it despite the help of my Rinnegan. I better stick to the treetops and use the light of the moon to help me find the way. Naruto mused. Flashback start. What do I have to do? Naruto asked suspiciously. There is a sacred item in the woods to the north of the desert surrounding my palace. You have obviously noted there are no tormented souls here. This palace is merely where I reside over my kingdom. This item contains a sacred seal that I would use to alter your abilities. I could use my own power, but my power only works over the outer path, therefore I require this item if I am to alter your human path. All I ask is that you obtain this item and bring it back to me. King Yama looked out the window to the forest beyond the desert before turning back to gaze at Naruto. The forest is a dangerous place here, and only I am able to venture through it without fear. Part of your test is getting through the woods alive. The other part is protecting this item as you make your way back through the woods. Once you remove the box containing the seal, it will set off a constant signal that anyone in this realm will feel. You will be attacked and they will try to rob you of this seal in order to use its power to free themselves of their torment. Make no mistake, Uzumaki Naruto, this is not as simple as it sounds. You are free of the torment this realm brings on the souls that reside here, so you will no doubt have an advantage, but those who wish to free themselves would do whatever it takes to get that seal. King Yama's voice boomed as he explained the test. What if I fail to retrieve it? Naruto asked, concerned. If you fail, it will be an easy task for me to recover it and bring you back to my palace alive. But I will not bestow my gift upon you and you will leave here without your Naraka path. He responded. So if I pass you will alter my abilities, but if I fail I will leave here without a path but otherwise unharmed? Naruto asked, raising a brow to King Yama's vague description to his failure. That is correct, but that will mean you will not become the next true sage of 6 paths. I guess I have no choice then, I accept. Naruto said reluctantly. King Yama smiled then said, very well, your test begins now. At that moment King Yama brought his hands together in a thundering clap causing Naruto to blink. In the second Naruto blinked he opened his eyes to see he was now outside the entrance to the castle. Turning back to look at the castle, noting the white stones that contrasted the forest that he was to set off into. Shrugging to himself and accepting his fate, he set off towards the woods. Flashback ends. Naruto focused some chakra to his feet and took off running to a tree and up the length of it until his feet slipped and sent him back to the ground. Rolling into the sand of the desert to cushion his fall, he looked back at the tree puzzled. He felt the chakra at his was gone and realization struck him. Great, the trees absorb chakra, that means I'm stuck fighting in the dark. Naruto said, then let out a sigh of defeat as he got to his feet and started to the forest again, this time on the ground. I can't believe I accepted the test, and what's even worse is, he didn't tell me where it was. Naruto thought to himself then added, part of the test must be finding it too. Naruto was about 20 feet into the woods when he felt it. A strong pulsing feeling hit him instantly and he wondered if it was the seal. Thinking it's the best lead he had to go on, he set off in the direction of the pulse. It didn't take long to realize the farther he went the darker it got until he was surrounded by complete darkness. He turned around to see the edge of the forest to find he couldn't see it. If he retraced his steps he knew he could find his way out, but if he wanted to pass he had to keep going forward blind. Naruto started walking forward again, stumbling over roots of the dead trees, running into rocks he couldn't see, and trying to avoid touching the trees at all costs but failing since he couldn't see where he was going. Naruto walked blindly towards the pulse for as long as 20 minutes when someone said, in the world of darkness, the blind man is king. Who's there? Naruto called out. You haven't figured it out yet, have you? The voice called out. Figured what out? Naruto asked, waiting to hear the voice again. The voice was a harsh raspy sound, unnatural to a human, but otherwise didn't sound too threatening. The thing that creeped Naruto out the most is how the voice seemed to come from all directions at once, making it impossible to tell where the person, or thing, the voice came from was. This forest is the darkest part of this world, you cannot survive by following your eyes. You cannot even trust your nose or your ears. The only way to survive here is to sense where you are and where you are going. The voice said suddenly to Naruto's left. Naruto whipped to the left to confront the voice when it called from behind him saying, I just said not to trust your ears. Naruto turned to the voice again but couldn't see where it came from, so he asked, who are you? Why are you helping me? You're an interesting person. You assume I'm helping you, but here I could be your enemy and you wouldn't know it. Why is that? The voice asked. Why would my enemy be trying to help me see? Why not just kill me and get it over with? I guess you have a point. In that case, prepare yourself. The voice shouted this time. Naruto instantly pulled out a kunai and got ready for anything as best as he could until he heard a harsh rasping sound that sounded what he thought was like a laugh. Just kidding. Don't worry, I won't harm you, I merely wish to help. The voice called out again from every direction. If that's true then show yourself. Naruto replied. That's impossible. I knew it, you aren't here to help me. For someone so smart, you're really dense. For the record, I'm to your right. And by impossible I mean how can I show myself in the dark? The voice said, sounding amused. Naruto turned to his right and asked, why are you helping me? Believe me when I say I deserve to be here. I am serving my penance, but King Yama has promised me a pardon and will allow me to leave this torment to go to a better place if I help you, so trust me when I say I am your ally. Trust is earned, and it's hard to trust someone I can't see. Naruto retorted. Which is why I am teaching you how to sense where I am so that you may not see me but rather see where I am. That is the best I can do. Naruto sighed and relaxed his stance and stashed his kunai as he said, alright, show me how to sense where you are and how to navigate this forest. Believe me when we're done you will be glad I did, because you will not only be able to navigate the forest, You will now see the world in a different way once you leave here. The voice coached Naruto for the next few hours in the art of sensing his surroundings. Once the voice was satisfied with Naruto's ability, he said, "Very well, let's get moving." "You're coming with me?" Naruto asked, confused. "If you wish to succeed, you will need my help, and I fully plan on leaving this place, so please don't delay me to this torment much longer. I don't even know your name." "I don't have one, but for trust's sake you can call me Kazuma." Naruto and Kazuma set off, with Kazuma following Naruto, now being able to sense his surroundings, to the pulse that seemed only Naruto felt. They traveled for the rest of the day, or what Naruto perceived as day, taking short breaks to rest and survey their surrounding more thoroughly for threats. By the middle of Naruto's night, they reached the source of the pulse, luckily without any threats or attacks by other wayward souls. When they reached it, however, Naruto and Kazuma found nothing, confusing them both. "I don't understand, something told me it would be here," Naruto said, exasperated. "Maybe whatever it was that told you was wrong," Kazuma suggested. "No, it's here, I can tell." "But where?" Naruto sat down on the ground in a meditation stance, only to shoot to his feet when he realized the pulse was beneath them. "The ground. It's buried," Naruto told Kazuma. They both instantly started to dig, and after digging 2 feet down came across a box. Naruto pulled the box out and felt around the edges until he came across a lock. Feeling the lock, Naruto had a strange urge to feed chakra to it. He concentrated on flowing his chakra to the lock until he heard a popping sound. Naruto smiled to himself and lifted the lid and felt a gust of wind exit the box as he lifted it. Gazing down into the box, he felt around and found the seal. Grabbing a hold of it, he pulled it out the box, causing it to glow red as soon as he shut the box lid. It glowed brightly but wasn't enough to light the path in the forest, so Naruto stuffed it in his kunai pouch and stood, leaving the box where it lay on the ground. "Let's get to the dessert before someone comes for it," Naruto suggested. "Agreed," Kazuma replied. They started walking back the other direction when they heard someone call out, "They have the seal." Instantly roars went up from every direction. Naruto, now being able to sense where they were, realized they didn't just sound from every direction, they were in every direction. "Run!" Kazuma yelled instantly. They both took off as fast as they could while sensing their surrounding. Naruto could hear people chasing after them. They kept running until Naruto saw the edge of the forest, with the light of the moon illuminating the desert. Seeing hope, Naruto sprinted as fast as he could until he burst forth into the desert. "Kazuma, we're almost there, we just have to cross the desert to get." Naruto was cut off by a high-pitched scream. Naruto turned around to find a dark figure pounce on Kazuma. He turned back to go help him when Kazuma called out, "Go, Naruto, you must succeed. I can't leave you here. Go," Kazuma yelled just as the figure slammed his face into a tree. Naruto made a split-second decision and ran back to Kazuma to see a figure pull him up and place a kunai to his throat. "Don't," Naruto said to stop the figure. "Give me the seal," the figure called out in a harsh, high-pitched voice like a woman's but gravely distorted. Naruto instantly pulled the seal from his kunai pouch and showed it to the figure. It wasn't glowing now, but Naruto pushed the thought aside, fearing for his new ally and friend. "Let him go and you can have it," Naruto said. "Give it to me now," the voice called. "Naruto, go, you must succeed. I deserve to be here, you don't, you must succeed. Let him go and I'll give it willingly." Naruto then created a shadow clone and gave it the seal and made it take the seal to the figure. The figure let go of Kazuma and pushed him to Naruto, where he fell at his feet. Naruto reached down and helped him up. He gasped as he looked him over and saw he was a boy that looked only 12 years old. It was then Naruto realized he made the right choice. "The seal is mine," the figure said, drawing Naruto's attention to it as it disappeared back into the dark forest. "Come on, let's go," Naruto said as he turned and headed to the castle. They walked in silence, neither one of them wanting to comment on their failure that only seemed worse by how close they had come. When they reached the castle, the doors swung open to reveal King Yama waiting for them. "Congratulations Uzumaki Naruto, you passed the test," King Yama's voice boomed. "How?" "I lost the seal at the edge of the forest," Naruto replied, confused. "You lost the paper the seal was written on, but did you look at it before you gave it away?" King Yama asked. "I noticed it wasn't glowing, but..." Naruto was cut off by King Yama. Kazuma stepped forward. He said as Kazuma started to inch forward. Once Kazuma reached him he smiled and said, "Lift your shirt, boy." Kazuma lifted his shirt to find the seal written in glowing red on his stomach. Naruto gasped as he saw it and asked, "How?" The seal transferred to Kazuma once you picked it up. You didn't notice because you placed it in your kunai pouch. By protecting your friend you protected the seal. It was a test to see if you'd truly embody the virtues of the original sage of six paths. King Yama instantly placed his hand on Kazuma's head as the seal began to grow a bright crimson color then vanish as Kazuma's form started to fade away. It had done, you may return to your world Uzumaki Naruto, and for helping him you may move on to live in peace Kazuma. Bye, friend, Kazuma said as he disappeared from sight. Bye Kazuma, Naruto said once his soul had vanished. Turning to King Yama Naruto said, "I'm confused by something." "What would that be?" King Yama asked as he eyed him curiously. "You said it would send off a signal once I found it. How come I felt drawn to it once I reached the forest?" "You are a descendant from the Uzumaki clan, seals are in your blood. You felt drawn to it by your own lineage. Now go, return to your world Uzumaki Naruto." "Wait, you never told me how you altered my paths," Naruto said quickly. At that instant King Yama smiled and said, "You shall see once you return." In that instant the outer path showed up and swallowed Naruto, sending him back to the realm of mortals. When Naruto arrived he found Kakashi and Neji sitting in the field waiting and playing a game of shogi. Kakashi caught movement out of the corner of his eye and turned to Naruto and said, "Welcome back Naruto." Naruto looked over to Kakashi and Neji as both stood and turned to him when Neji asked, "So what happened Naruto?" "Oh, well I met King Yama and he said I had to pass this test so." Naruto started when he was interrupted. "You met King Yama?" Neji asked completely stunned. "Yay, and he made me take this test to see if I am worthy to unlock my next path but I ended up making a deal with him that if I passed that he would alter my human path's abilities, as well as my Naraka path's abilities." "I take it you passed?" Kakashi asked. "Yay, I passed but he never told me how he altered them." Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his head. "I see. What did he say about your abilities then?" Kakashi asked calmly. "How can you be so calm when Naruto just met King Yama?" Neji asked confused. "Simple, Naruto is here and unharmed, which means he obviously trusts Naruto." Kakashi turned back to Naruto and asked, "So what did he say?" "All he did was grin and said I will see." Naruto said with a sigh. I guess all we can do is make you create more 5 clones and see what your clones do." Kakashi said with a thoughtful look on his face. "But how will they know what to do if I don't know what to do?" Naruto asked. "Let's just try an experiment." "Go on Naruto," Kakashi said. Naruto shrugged then let his shoulders drop in defeat all while he sighed to himself. Naruto then moved to make the seal for the shadow clone jutsu and 5 clones appeared around him in a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared Naruto joined his clones as they all stared at Kakashi for further instruction. Kakashi merely just stood there staring until he brought his hand to his chin indicating that he was thinking as he looked up into the clouds. Well that didn't seem to do anything," Kakashi said causing Naruto, his clones, and Neji to all fall to the ground from Kakashi's obviously flawed idea. "I got it. Naruto why don't you make your clones fight each other? To make things easier forbid them from using any of your path's current abilities. They can only use kunai and any ninjutsu or taijutsu that you know other than your path's abilities. To truly see what they can do make it a fight to the death so to speak. Clone versus clone until one defeats the other by making it dispel from the damage." Kakashi explained. "That's a good idea Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said as he nodded to all his clones since they heard the explanation too. Naruto's clones broke off in 3 groups. 2 went to one side of the training ground to fight while 2 others went to the other side to fight, leaving 1 clone left with Kakashi, Neji, and Naruto. Seeing it had no one to fight Naruto moved to fight it himself. Neji and Kakashi watched as all 6 Narutos fought until they noticed a puff of smoke on one side of the clearing. They turned to see a clone standing by himself smiling triumphantly before heading to the center of the training ground where Neji and Kakashi stood. At the same time a puff of smoke went up on the other side and another clone walked back to the center meeting the other clone. "Well, since you both won why don't you fight each other while the real Naruto and the other clone finish their fight?" Kakashi said to the 2 victorious clones just as they walked off to spar. A few minutes later one of the two clones had already lost and was walking back to Kakashi and Neji again. It stopped in front of Kakashi and turned to watch the real Naruto dodging his clone doing some taijutsu moves. Well, the real Naruto seems to be not faring so well against his clone, and his clones finished each other off without showing any signs of any new jutsu. I guess the theory of putting them under pressure won't work anymore. Neji said to Kakashi just as Naruto ended up dispelling his clone with a Rasengan attack. Naruto then walked up to Kakashi and Neji. He looked over to see his clone and with a wave to the clone it disappeared in a puff of smoke. Once his clones were gone, Naruto turned to Kakashi and asked, "What now, Kakashi-sensei?" "To be honest, Naruto, you have reached the point that I don't believe that I could defeat you, or anyone in the village for that matter. To put it blatantly, I don't know how to figure out your new abilities without any hint as to what it could be." Kakashi explained. "There has to be some kind of clue, Kakashi-sensei." Neji interjected. "Perhaps there is one we are overlooking, but with there being thousands of jutsu in the world I have no clue where to even begin." Kakashi said, for once at a loss for ideas. "Well, why don't we break for the day, come up with a few ideas, then meet back here tomorrow to test them? Who knows, maybe a day off fully recuperated will help Naruto later." Neji suggested. Well, I guess we have no choice, I'll go have a talk with Yamato and see if he has any ideas as well. Naruto, meet back here tomorrow, you're dismissed," Kakashi said, moving to follow Naruto as they all headed back into town. Kakashi was walking as he stared at the ground, deep in thought about how to approach the dilemma with Naruto when Neji interrupted his thoughts saying, Kakashi-sensei, I think you need to take a look at this." Neji sounded so urgent that it brought Kakashi immediately out of his thoughts to see what it was he was talking about. As he looked up to Neji, he followed his stare towards Naruto to find he was flickering. What in the world? Kakashi thought just as Naruto suddenly vanished, reappearing at least 50 feet ahead of them now. Both of their eyes widened and they both gasped audibly, making Naruto turn around to see them so far behind him. Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head as he called out, "I guess I was walking faster than I thought." Kakashi and Neji then ran over to Naruto, both of them asking, "Naruto, how did you do that?" This confused Naruto. He stood there for a second staring into their faces for any signs of what they were talking about, but when he found none he simply asked, "Do what?" "You just, kinda faded. No, I guess flickered would be better way of putting it, then disappeared. You reappeared a second later way ahead of us." Neji spat out like his life was on the line if he didn't. What he's trying to say was, how did you move so fast? Kakashi reiterated for Neji. "I don't understand. All I was doing was thinking about getting a bowl of ramen from Ichiraku's and how I couldn't wait to get there. Then you ran up telling me I vanished, but all I did was keep walking," Naruto said, trying to defend himself. Kakashi just stared at him as his mind tried to process what had just happened. He looked down to where they were standing, then suddenly started to walk back to where they were before the incident. The whole time his eyes never left the ground. Naruto and Neji were confused by his actions but followed him nonetheless. Once he stopped walking they waiting for him to speak, but what he said confused them more than anything. "The yellow flash." He spoke softly as he said it, but both Neji and Naruto still heard him. "Who is the yellow flash?" Neji asked. "The Yondaime Hokage. He had a jutsu that utilized a special kunai as a catalyst for a jutsu that he created. It was instant teleportation." Naruto's eyes widened immediately as he said, "The Yondai, Dad? Your father was the fourth Hokage?" Neji asked, incredulous. "Naruto, how did you know that?" Kakashi asked, answering Neji's question. "He appeared inside my head during my fight with Pain. He told me what he had done to seal the Kyuubi and that he was my father. Then he explained how he put a seal on top of the Kyuubi's seal to activate if all 9 tails managed to manifest. He was just a recording of himself, not the real thing, but he was real enough to me." Naruto turned to face the ground, face turning grim. "Naruto, how did you do that? There has to be a seal on something to work as a catalyst for the jutsu, but there's nothing here," Kakashi asked, trying to bring him out of his depressing inner thoughts. Naruto looked back to Kakashi, furrowing his brow in confusion once again as he said, "I already told you. I was in a hurry to get a bowl of ramen and one guess it just happened." His subconscious must have activated it somehow by trying to placate his hunger. What I don't understand is how he did it without a seal. Is this how his paths were modified? Is this his Naraka path or his human path? These thoughts all whirled through his head as Naruto and Neji stared at him patiently. Neji, go get 2, no make that 4, bowls of miso ramen with extra pork. Kakashi said quickly, startling them both. Right, Neji said as he finally caught on to Kakashi's thinking and he turned to run to Ichiraku's. Hey wait, I want to go too. Naruto said as he turned and grabbed Neji's shoulder, making him stop in his tracks. Naruto, you stay here. I want you to try and use that jutsu again, and if you can do it successfully, then I will give you a bowl of ramen. Every time after that I will give you more until either you are full or we have to get more. Deal? Kakashi asked Naruto. Naruto turned instantly and his eyes gleamed as he stared at Kakashi and said, deal. Neji, hurry back with the ramen. Kakashi turned to Naruto and said, okay Naruto, now try and use. Neji, why are you still here? Kakashi asked, turning back to Neji. Neji didn't respond. Neji? Kakashi asked, walking over to him. Once Kakashi got to Neji, he shook his shoulder but found he didn't move or speak. Getting worried, Kakashi walked to the front of Neji and found his face scrunched up with sweat beading on his forehead. Seeing Kakashi's concern, Naruto walked up to Neji. Neji, are you alright? He asked, reaching out to touch his shoulder. Suddenly Neji dropped to his knees, gasping, as if he had been kicked in the stomach, which forced all the air out of his lungs. Neji stayed there for a minute, catching his breath until he wiped the sweat onto his sleeve and stood up to look at Naruto. Naruto, please keep your hands to yourself for the time being. Neji asked with as much calm as he could muster after his short ordeal. What happened? Naruto asked, confused. It seems that when you touched me it forcefully froze me in place. I tried to fight it but it was no use, I couldn't move even an inch. Neji explained. I see, first you copied the jutsu of the Yondaime, excuse me, your father, without the proper seal. Now you have copied the shadow bind technique without the use of Neji's shadow but rather a touch from your hand. Kakashi looked to the clouds again and thought for maybe the 5th time that morning before continuing. I'm beginning to wonder if you are copying the abilities of everyone you know but without the limitations of the actual jutsu. Don't be stupid, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said, surprising the copy nin. What do you mean by that, Naruto? He asked simply. I know who my dad is but I never knew any of his jutsu, that disproves that theory right there. Naruto explained. I have another theory if I may interject. Neji said calmly. Go ahead, Neji. Kakashi nodded to him. Well, Naruto's human path reads the person's mind but only if contact is made, right? Neji waited for them both to nod before he continued. Both of these new abilities manifested at the same time. Now they could both be different paths but I'm inclined to believe these are the modified abilities of his human path. If his mind-reading ability is only achievable by contact, it would be safe to assume he would need to keep them still while he read their mind, which explains that binding jutsu he just did to me. As far as the instant teleportation, flying thunder god jutsu, Kakashi interrupted to correct him. Right. As far as that goes, he would have to be able to touch them to bind them in place where he could then proceed to read their mind. In a sense they all have their strength, but together it's an information gatherer's dream. Neji said, grinning smugly at the fact that he outdid the famous copy nin of Konoha. That's a great theory, Neji. Now the only problem is what abilities Naruto's Naraka path has. It's now a few days after Naruto had discovered the new abilities to his human path. The fact that Kakashi, Neji, and Naruto still had no idea how Naruto's Naraka path had been altered frustrated all of them, and Kakashi decided it was time for all of them to take a break from Naruto's training for a few days at least, not just to recuperate but also to just relax and clear their minds. Naruto was walking with Kakashi and Sakura around the village watching everyone putting the final touches on it when Kiba rode up to them on Akamaru with Sai following closely behind. Guys, I don't want you to be alarmed but I just got some news. Kiba said, jumping off Akamaru and facing Naruto. What kind of news? Asked Sakura. Danzo has been nominated as Hokage. Kiba said seriously. Sakura clenched her fists instantly and started to walk away when Kakashi called. Where are you going, Sakura? To teach Danzo a lesson. How dare he do this while Tsunade-sama is still in a coma? She said, fuming. Yay, Kakashi-sensei. How can they do that to Granny Tsunade? Naruto asked. The fact is Tsunade is in a coma and no one knows when she will wake up. Nominating a new Hokage in her place only seems logical under the circumstances. Kakashi stated calmly. That was when Naruto started to walk away as well as he said, I'm coming too, Sakura. Naruto, stop. By going to confront Danzo you will only make things worse. You are the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox and Danzo already wants you to be kept in the village at all times. Don't fall into his plans by confronting him and getting arrested. Kakashi said, stepping closer to Naruto and Sakura. So what do we do? Naruto asked. We play along for now and seize the opportunity when it arises. 3 Kumo nin were walking through the forest when they finally arrived at the gates to Konohagakure. When they tried to walk in they were stopped immediately. State your business in Konoha. One of the gate guards said. We are shinobi from Kumogakure. We have an important message that we are to deliver to the Hokage from the Reikage. The leader of the Kumo nin stated flatly. My apologies, we will arrange a meeting right away. Just then one of the guards summoned 3 Anbu guards to escort the leader of the Kumo nin away. Scout around and see if you can find any information about this Sasuke Uchiha. The leader told the other 2 before she turned to follow the 3 Anbu. What do you mean Sasuke has been declared a rogue ninja? Naruto screamed at Kiba as if somehow it was his fault. When Danzo was made Hokage the first thing he did was declare Sasuke a rogue ninja and gave the order to find and kill him. Sai stated blankly. Then I will have to find Sasuke before they do. Naruto said just as a sword was swung at his head. What the? Sakura started when the sword suddenly went after her, causing her to dodge. Naruto instantly made a clone and sent it to attack their opponents only to have a Kumo nin cut it, causing it to dispel. Sai then went into a defensive stance as Naruto went over to check on Sakura. So you know this Sasuke Uchiha? One of the Kumo nin stated as though it were a question. What's it to you? Sakura asked viciously. Everything. Tell me all you know about him or else. The Kunoichi threatened as she prepared for another attack. You'll have to give us a reason. Blindly attacking us doesn't exactly make us trust you. Sai said as he pulled out some ink and paper. He killed our sensei. She suddenly screamed. Why would Sasuke do that? Sakura asked, obviously stunned by the Kunoichi's statement. How should I know what the Akatsuki's reasons? Sasuke? Akatsuki? No, he would never join them. Sakura said as she desperately tried to defend her former teammate. We confirmed the description along with the description of an Akatsuki robe. Is your sensei a Jinchuriki? Naruto suddenly asked. Yes, but what does that have to do with anything? The other Kumo nin said, finally speaking up. Because I am a Jinchuriki too. The Akatsuki don't kill Jinchuriki, they capture them alive, so your sensei may still be alive somewhere. Naruto continued as he stood up from where Sakura had dodged to. Now is not the time to be worrying about revenge if you wish to save your sensei's life. I'll come with you. Naruto, don't. Kiba said as he reached out to Naruto. Guys, let me handle this. Naruto said as he walked to the 2 Kumo nin. Well, looks like you're smart after all, now come on, follow us. The Kunoichi said as the 2 Kumo nin walked away. Sai immediately followed them. Naruto was currently taking a beating from the red-haired Kumo nin named Karui after he refused to tell them that he wouldn't betray Sasuke and then said he would let them beat him if it satisfied them. Sai just watched from the trees quietly. Why do they continue to believe in Sasuke even though their bond causes them nothing but pain? Sai thought to himself as he continued to watch the beating. Eventually Sai couldn't watch anymore. The girl Karui stopped hitting Naruto after they exchanged a few words, but when she drew back for another punch Sai made his move. Before they knew it, Sai had caught her fist and was standing there glaring at her while holding her fist in place with ease. Karui glared back but it had no effect on Sai and eventually Omoi, the white-haired Kumo nin, stopped Karui just before she went to hit Sai. It was then that their leader returned from the meeting with the Hokage and declared they were leaving. Once the 3 Kumo nin left, Sai moved to help Naruto up. Sai, will you take me to Kakashi-sensei? A bloody Naruto asked in a muffled tone from his swollen cheek. Sai then picked Naruto up and headed back towards Konoha. After being bandaged by Shizune, Naruto turned towards Kakashi as he said, I'm going to see the Reikage. Naruto, that's impossible. It's not safe for you as a Jinchuriki to go outside the village alone. Even if you could find an escort you would be hard-pressed to get a meeting with the Reikage after the news about Sasuke. I don't care, I want to ask the Reikage to forgive Sasuke's actions. It isn't his doing, he's being used. Naruto argued. Ma, well that doesn't surprise me with Madara. Kakashi stated calmly. Madara? Yamato asked, finally speaking up for the first time since arriving to see Naruto. Yes, Naruto was informed by Pain before he defeated him that the true leader behind the Akatsuki is Madara Uchiha. Kakashi said, trying to help inform Yamato of what was going on. I see, so he's alive. Yamato said as he clenched his fists tightly. Well, since I know you're going to do this anyways with or without my help Naruto, I will get you a meeting with the Raikage, and me and Yamato will be your escorts. Kakashi said as he eyes smiled. What? Yamato asked incredulously. Oh come Tenzo, it won't be so bad. Hey, you're not supposed to call me that, and how could you just volunteer me like that without asking? He argued with Kakashi. It'll be okay Yamato. We will help keep Naruto safe and get him a meeting with the Raikage at the Cage Summit after their meeting. Cage Summit? Naruto asked confused. Yes, with the whole situation with Akatsuki, they have called a Cage Summit to discuss what actions they will take to stop the Akatsuki. After their meeting will be the perfect time to approach the Raikage. Kakashi explained. I guess I have no choice then. Yamato said as his shoulders slumped in defeat, causing Naruto and Kakashi to burst into great fits of laughter. Madara, I have found where Konan has buried the bodies of Nagato and the bodies of all the Pains. Zetsu said as he suddenly rose from a tree beside Madara. Good. What took you so long Zetsu? You're usually very adept at finding whatever it is you're searching for. Madara stated as he looked out at nothing in particular. It seems Konan was very skilled in genjutsu and managed to hide where the bodies were buried with a genjutsu. Like all genjutsu though, I found a way to break it. It was only after I broke it that I realized I had been looking at them many times and the genjutsu managed to conceal them. However, this last time I noticed a slight difference that caught my attention. Zetsu explained. Good, everything is coming together nicely. Madara said to himself. There is a problem however. Zetsu continued after Madara. What problem? When I went to retrieve Nagato's body, his Rinnegan was gone. What? What do you mean gone? Tell me. Madara shouted, showing anger for the first time to Zetsu, or anyone for that matter in a very long time. When I checked his eyes they were dull from death but instead of the Rinnegan, they were a bright blue, even in death. Zetsu explained calmly. I see, Nagato, you have not only betrayed me by using that ability to restore the lives of Konoha but also betrayed me in keeping me from the precious Rinnegan. Madara said as he looked to the sky. Are you ready Naruto? Kakashi asked. Hold on, just let me get a few more cups of ramen. Naruto stated as he rushed into the nearest store to buy instant ramen. Naruto, shouldn't you be using more room for more useful supplies like kunai? Yamato asked as he watched Naruto walk out of the store trying to force his bag shut from the overflowing cups of ramen. It's going to be a long trip, I need to be prepared. Besides, if I need any supplies in a battle, my clones will have everything I'll need. Yamato and Kakashi just sweat dropped as they watched Naruto cheerfully walk out the gates of Konoha before he stopped. Naruto then turned around and rubbed the back of his head and asked, where are they meeting again? Naruto, you may have gotten a lot smarter and stronger, but I guess some things will never change. Kakashi said as he pulled out a book entitled, Tales of a Gutsy Ninja, as he followed Naruto out of Konoha. Kakashi, Naruto, and Yamato had all set off towards the Cage Summit when about halfway there Kakashi caught the scent of the three Cloud Men that had previously gathering information on Sasuke. Kakashi then decided to follow them in hopes that they would rendezvous with the Raikage, therefore allowing them to see him before the summit. Informing Naruto and Yamato of his plan, they set off to following them. They made good time catching up to them and they had almost reached the summit when Kakashi had suddenly stopped. Holding up a hand he signaled Naruto and Yamato to stop as well. What is it Kakashi-senpai? Yamato asked him. It appears we have found the Raikage. Kakashi said staring ahead. Then what are we waiting for? Naruto said as he started forward again. Wait Naruto. Kakashi said as he held a hand up to restrain him. It appears that they are giving a report to the Raikage. If we interrupt their report they misinterpret our actions as an attack and not for a meeting. But, Naruto sighed. Fine. Don't worry Naruto, it appears they're done now. We can proceed. Kakashi stated calmly before all three of them instantly shunshined in front of all of the Cloud Men. You? Karui stated intelligently as she pointed an accusing finger at Naruto. Copy Nin Hitaki Kakashi, what do you want? The Raikage said in a voice that growled with power. I request a meeting with you on behalf of Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. I don't have time for this, so speak quick, boy. The Raikage said as he turned his eyes on Naruto. Naruto instantly stepped forward and bowed out of respect. Remaining bowed, he said, I request that you do not pursue Sasuke Uchiha. He is being misled down a dark path, and I believe. Enough, the Raikage shouted. You call yourself a ninja and yet you bow to me? No self-respecting ninja should ever bow to an enemy. It's a disgrace and you should be ashamed. As for the Uchiha, I will not remove the order to have him killed. You should know better, boy. That was when Naruto stood to full height, his eyes burning in determination as he said. Then I guess I have no choice but to find him first. I came here to plead to you for mercy, but it seems an old man like you is too stubborn to see reason. He is a rogue nin of the leaf and should be dealt with by the leaf. I don't believe Sasuke truly did what he did, and if he did, then he is being used, so I will use every ounce of my power to save him. Even if that means killing you, old man. Naruto, it isn't wise to make an enemy of the Raikage. Yamato scolded. Now that's more like it. The Raikage said, shocking everyone but Naruto, who stood showing no emotion. That is how a true shinobi acts. Let the leaf clean up their own mess, yes. But hear me, boy, if I happen to find him first, I will not hesitate to destroy him and you if you stand in my way. You have guts, kid, maybe a bit foolish, but you have guts. With that, the Raikage walked past Naruto and left. Well, that didn't go as planned, but at least it wasn't a total loss. Kakashi looked at Naruto, who hadn't moved. Naruto? Walking around to look at Naruto, he saw Naruto was trying hard to hide his emotions, but he could clearly see the pain in his eyes. Finally Naruto spoke, saying, I have to get stronger, to save Sasuke. Naruto, Kakashi, and Yamato were currently in a hotel in the Land of Iron trying to figure out a new plan. So far nothing had come up until a chance meeting with Madara Uchiha informed them that Sasuke truly had become evil and was determined to get revenge on everyone responsible for the massacre of his clan. He had explained Itachi's wishes and how the massacre truly transpired. After explaining the past of the Uchiha clan and how they are descended from the true sage of six paths, he quickly vanished, leaving Kakashi and Yamato stunned while Naruto sat in silence. I must stop Sasuke before he makes a true mistake, Naruto thought to himself. Naruto then moved to the roof of the hotel as Yamato and Kakashi dealt with the now angered hotel owner for the large hole they had created in their fight with Madara just before he explained to them Sasuke's sordid past. Naruto had just achieved Sage Mode and was currently trying to think of how he was going to improve on it, or at the very least make it last longer, when he felt a spike in chakra signature. Sensing that it was Sasuke, he instantly vanished from the roof as Kakashi quickly followed behind him. Yamato, unfortunately, was left to deal with the hotel owner on his own. Naruto was fast. Kakashi knew how fast he was, and with a normal Naruto he wouldn't have a problem catching him. However, with Naruto in Sage Mode he was finding it very difficult. The two-leaf nin raced through the Land of Iron at breakneck speed, and was soon finding themselves just outside the cage summit. It was then that Sasuke's chakra signature vanished, leaving Naruto confused as well as Kakashi, but also giving him the opportunity to catch up to Naruto. Naruto, what's the matter? Kakashi asked as he finally landed beside his former student. Sasuke was just here, I sensed it. But now he just vanished. No doubt the work of Madara. We'll wait here, but we can't stay on the summit's ground or else we arouse suspicion for the leaf. Sasuke had just fought the Raikage and unlocked more of his Susanoo. The fight had been difficult, but to Sasuke, anything was worth it in his goal for revenge. He had to get to Danzo. He managed to weaken the Raikage when he foolishly set his arm on fire with Sasuke's Amaterasu when he tried to attack him head-on, thereby having to cut off his right arm or risk death. Now he was in some strange world of Madara's choosing, and Karen was healing his injuries that he sustained from the fight. Suddenly a vortex appeared and Madara formed out of thin air, startling Karen. He stared blankly at the two through his mask until finally he asked, "Is he healed?" Karen merely nodded and Sasuke sat up to look at him better. "I have a present for you, Sasuke," Madara said before Sasuke, Karen, and himself were sucked into yet another of his mysterious vortexes. When they reappeared, he saw Danzo standing on a bridge, fiddling with a strange lock on his arm. Danzo glanced up as the lock fell away from his arm and he started to unwrap the bandage around it. Madara and Sasuke Uchiha. Good, now that you're both here I will take your Sharingan. He said as he finished unwrapping his arm to show 10 Sharingan all placed in the skin of his arm and all looking around in different directions. Naruto and Kakashi were waiting in just outside the grounds of the summit when Naruto's whole body instantly stiffened. What is it, Naruto? Kakashi asked him. It's Sasuke. He's back, Naruto said just before he and Kakashi raced away. When they finally reached where Naruto found Sasuke it was too late. Sasuke was panting from the exertion of his fight and Danzo himself lay on the ground presumably dead. They instantly jumped up to where Sasuke was and stared at him from across the now half-destroyed bridge. Oh? Naruto and Sasuke. This should be interesting, Madara said before looking to Karen and saying, heal Sasuke quickly. Karen nodded and ran over to Sasuke. Presenting her arm to him she urged him to bite down. When he complied she stifled a cry from pain but let him continue as her ability restored Sasuke's chakra and quickly healed his wounds. When the process finished Sasuke stood and glared at Naruto. Karen, stay back, you might get hurt, Sasuke said as his eyes never left Naruto's face. Sasuke, why are you doing this? Naruto pleaded. Because of what they did to my clan. You shouldn't have come here, Naruto. Well, I did and I plan on taking you back even if I have to break your legs to do it. Naruto growled out in a dangerous tone. Sasuke had a sense of déjà vu but went into an attack stance. In a flurry of motion a couple of kunai that Sasuke had retrieved from his previous battle were sent towards Naruto. Kakashi had stepped back to let Naruto fight Sasuke but stayed ready in case Madara attempted to interfere. Naruto instantly dodged them and made 5 Kage Bunshin that all instantly raced towards Sasuke. Sasuke went to dodge when suddenly one of Naruto's clones was behind him reaching towards him. Sasuke dodged Naruto's clone quickly, sending a kick to his chest just before he jumped out of reach. Not hearing the satisfying poof he turned to see the clone was still intact. Activating his Sharingan he noticed the clone had more chakra than normal. Putting the pieces together he looked to the real Naruto and said, I see you've learned some new tricks. Yay, and I got one you will just love. Shinra Tensei. Naruto cried as Sasuke was instantly pushed into the wall behind him. Sasuke broke away from the wall easily, presumably unharmed by the attack. It was then that Naruto noticed what looked to be a spine and rib cage protecting Sasuke. Sasuke smirked that he was once again saved by his Susanoo, but it quickly died away when his vision started to get blurry and his Susanoo started to disappear. He knew he couldn't keep using Susanoo, so he decided to play with Naruto's mind a little bit. I don't need Susanoo to defeat you, but I will give you the privilege of seeing the true power of the Mangekyo Sharingan, he stated just before he rushed forward, catching Naruto unaware and shoving a kunai straight through Naruto's heart. He smirked and jumped away and watched as Naruto just stood there unfazed. It was that moment that he finally noticed Naruto's eyes. How can you stand there like nothing happened? He shouted. Because Sasuke, Genjutsu won't work anymore. I'm not the dead last you knew from the academy anymore, Naruto stated just as the world around them all shimmered into reality with Sasuke not moved an inch from the other side of the destroyed bridge. Suddenly Sasuke started to laugh maniacally and said, ha 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 ha, fine then. I will destroy the leaf and I will start by destroying their precious Jinchuriki first. I'll finish this quickly. Amaterasu. Black flames flew out from Sasuke's direction and in a loud clash, black collided with purple. Both flames fought for dominance, but in the end the purple flames won out and the black flames merged and became part of the purple flames. When they finally died down, the flames danced around Naruto's feet, a look of shock on his face that was quickly replaced by a foxy grin. What the hell? Sasuke started. Your flames cannot kill me now, Sasuke. I finally understand what he meant, Naruto said, but the last part was more to himself. What who meant? Sasuke yelled in anger. Your Amaterasu cannot beat my fire, because the fire I control comes from hell.
That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share and do comments.